Welcome, everybody. The Jonesboro Open is underway this week. Press conference starting now with Calvin Heimburg, defending champion of the event. Calvin, I know you mentioned it's a little chilly out here today, but how was your drive out west from Georgia?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, it just took the majority of Monday. I think it was about 9 hours, but yeah, made the whole way in Monday. So I've had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get out here and practice the course. Not much has changed out here, so it's really just freshening up on the shots. But pretty much all the game plan was already been decided. It's basically the same as it has been.
Do you enjoy when a course doesn't change much from how it was in the previous year?
It definitely makes it easier to practice and get ready for, because there isn't really much game plan to change. You've probably already ironed that out in the year before. It is sometimes fun to kind of have to figure some new stuff out, but this course has been pretty steady and constant throughout the past few years.
You mentioned in a little recap on Instagram a little bit ago that you were wanting to work on your short game in general, approach shots, putting, things like that, because of your performance last week at Champions Cup. Did you get the opportunity to do that, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time on the putting green this week, just getting extra reps on a practice basket, and I've also thrown some more approaches, just going out to a little church course this week. So I've definitely put a little more work into that. Don't know how important that's going to be really out here on this course, but it is something that needs to be cleaned up, moving forward.
Just a quick question about the putting. I know in the past Gannon Burr has said that he only practices from 30 feet on the putting green, sometimes a little longer, but mainly from 30. Are you somewhere similar, or do you practice all over the green?
I would say the majority of the practice probably happens between 25 and 35, so kind of a similar range. I think, it's where I'm putting myself quite often, and kind of anything inside 25 I feel pretty good about. So I would say the majority of my practice happens in a similar range to 30 feet.
This course, unlike a lot of the more open courses we play, has very generous fairways. There's only a few holes that have tight roped OB. Do you enjoy a course that lets the players kind of throw and stretch the fairways a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it favors my game for sure. I mean, I think really it kind of helps everybody just kind of air it out. But I think out here you don't necessarily have to throw far to score well, but it definitely helps to make the approaches a little shorter. So not a whole lot of trouble to find on a lot of these holes, but it's just finding your spots and then dialing in those approaches from your spots.
Do you feel like this course should have tighter OB on some of the more open shots?
I definitely feel like it could. I think it would make some of the holes probably a little more interesting. There's definitely some par fours out here that are maybe even on the shorter side, and if you just put a little bit of OB in, it would make players think a little more about what their disc selection is, and it's less just kind of chuck and then scramble from wherever you end up, and more of picking exactly where you want to land. So I think it definitely could make the course play harder and maybe a little more interesting in some cases, but where those lines would be drawn, I'm not exactly sure.
You've won this tournament in some playoff settings, and there was some talk about the tee pad of hole 1 in the past, and I know you made a comment recently about the tee pad of 1. Have you inspected the tee pad, and how does it look?
Honestly, I haven't inspected the tee pad. I don't have very aggressive treaded shoes, so normally like the loose tee pads aren't really that big of a deal for me. I think it's really an issue for the people that wear like the more hiking style shoes. Their shoes really do grab these carpet or turf tee pads a lot more, and sometimes they do pull them. So I mean, I have a flat bottom shoe, and it shouldn't be an issue for me this week.
Sounds good. Well, good luck, and here's Hayden Henry.
All right, Calvin, just going back to the Champions Cup, saw a few changes out there at W.R. Jackson. What were your thoughts overall on the course and how it played this year for MPO?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly the same course that we had seen. I felt like the rough might have been a little bit cleaner, and then there was the two obvious changes on 14 and 18 where they moved tee pads. I think I kind of liked how the old holes played a little better than the new holes, but I do understand why they had to change them as far as, 14's interference with hole 1's tee pad kind of made sense that needed to move. But yeah, they definitely stylistically still fit in with the course very well. as a whole, I think the course played as it should last weekend.
Yeah, pretty low scores. Do you see areas that could make that course even more difficult, or are those guys or everyone just making it look easier than it is?
I really think a lot of it comes down to, I think the undergrowth out at that course has kind of disappeared throughout the years, and scrambling in the past out there I felt like used to be more really making a choice between pitching out and then like trying to do something a little more wild to, progress up the fairway. So I think as that's cleared out, it's always you're always pushing down the fairway. There's less pitching out going on. So I do think everyone played amazing, but I also do think, as happens on most wooded courses, as the undergrowth clears out on the sides of the fairways, they're going to play easier as time goes on.
You hinted at it a little bit, but what would you like to see improve in your game this week compared to last week at WR? Obviously, completely different places, but what do you want to do this week?
Yeah, I think the one thing would be just clean it up on the putting green. I don't think the shorter approaches are going to be as big of a deal out here as it is at WR. So less concerned about that, and it's more just making sure I'm sharp on the putting green.
All right, we're in a crazy stretch of the tour right now. How are you feeling overall? Is there any burnout? Are you ready for a break?
No, I'm feeling good. Next week we technically have a break, but it's almost not really a break. It's like drive 30 hours cross country. So, yeah, you're going to get some downtime, but there's also a lot of time spent just literally getting to the other side of the country. So, next week is an off week. I will definitely do some things to enjoy my time, but I think there's also just a lot of driving going on next week.
Do you think as you get deeper in your career, you're going to look closer at scheduling more events off, or is it full bore for now?
Yeah, as long as I'm feeling good, I'm just going to be, hitting most of the events. I think I'll be tapering off on the Silver Series as the season progresses. If I play good at the next one I play, I may not play another Silver Series for the remainder of the season. I honestly wish I didn't have to play any of them. I don't think it's really... I'm playing because they're part of the point series, and I just don't quite feel like they should be. It's just not, the field isn't out there, and it doesn't really make sense for that to count for half of an event. So hopefully I won't have to play those in the future, but as for now, chasing points, I will be.
What does a silver event look like to you? What should it be?
I think it should be a way for people to qualify for the tour, because currently the only way to qualify for tour is to get points, and you're almost kept out of getting points for tour unless you're already on tour. So the Silver Series should be a qualifying tour to make it onto the tour for the next year. I think most of the people out here, if they really want to play, they could find another tournament to play, but it should just be a tour for people to try to get on tour, as opposed to, a set of events for people already on tour to play because they need points. It's just the whole field's not out there. It doesn't really make sense. Like the best competition, like you get a few of the best players, but you don't get all of it, and it doesn't really make sense for that to count for as many points as it does.
All right, solid thoughts from the defending champ. Thanks, Calvin.
Yeah.
Welcoming to Jonesboro, Arkansas, our newest major champion now, 3-time, Kristin Tattar. Kristin, it's a little chilly here in Jonesboro, Arkansas right now, but how was your travel out west?
It was great. I mean, everything went well. I'm happy to be back here because last year it went well here. I love the course, and I don't mind the little chilly weather right now.
Such an emotional week last week. There was so much that went on. There were so many people wanting to get your attention, so many people interviewing you. Felt like I talked to you for a large portion of each day, including the champions interview. Is there ever sort of like an emotional hangover from weeks like that and then having to play another tournament the next week?
Yes, I can definitely feel it right now. I feel like I've been just super focused all the time, so I feel kind of like drained, and it was a little hard for me to pull myself together and do a proper practice round here and to get ready for the next tournament. It's my last one here before heading home, so I'm just telling myself one more weekend, but it's definitely tough. I can feel it.
When it comes to like decompressing or taking some time to yourself, what do you like to do other than play disc golf and train for disc golf?
I think just to like get away from media and attention and just spend time with my family. I haven't seen really my daughter for like 2 months basically. So it's hard sometimes, and now I'm looking forward to the month of May, so we can just spend time together and do like mom and daughter stuff and just enjoy like normal life.
You wrote some very beautiful words after the tournament, and a lot of people shared that post and were very inspired by the words you wrote. And I, after reading that, had to wonder, was there a specific person in your life when you were growing up that spoke that way, that spoke in that kind of motivational way, or are you the type that's always been very reflective? Have you read books that have put you in that mindset?
I think it's just stuff that I've been going through my whole life. It's not necessarily like one person or the other, but I've always looked inwards and tried to like look for answers to life's many questions. I've not found all of them, but I feel like I'm getting smarter every day, and I think everybody should take the time to just analyze what's going on and why something happened and why not. Not to overthink, but just to get some clarity. And thinking back to last year's Champions Cup, I think it benefited me in a way, so I could win in such a large margin this year. So I don't label it a bad experience. I think it was a good experience last year.
Well, thank you for that. And a lot of people were very pleased to read the things that you wrote. There might be a future for you in writing if you want it in the future. But jumping ahead to this week, you mentioned it's probably hard to get everything together to focus on this event. Do you feel like you've carried that momentum into this week? Do you feel like your game's still feeling pretty good?
It does feel good. I mean, I feel like everything is working, but again, in disc golf, I don't feel that there's any like guarantees. So you can have a bad day tomorrow. You never know. But I'm interested. I'm interested to see how this weekend rolls out, and I feel prepared. Yes.
This course is so much more open than W.R. Jackson, and so much more green space to land your disc on.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a course like this, I asked the same question to Calvin, does this course need more out of bounds to frame some of these fairways, or do you like how wide open some of these fairways are?
I like how wide they are. I think it's fun to leave players room to work with and not be so worried about out of bounds. Just let them take birdies, and I think it's fun because we play all like variety of courses. There are some with very tight OBs, which makes players so nervous that they cannot really show their true skill level sometimes. But here you can just like not worry about it and just let your skills shine, I feel like.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. And here's Hayden Henry.
Thanks.
Hey, Kristin, last week you mentioned you played some of the best golf that you've ever played. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit and what was cooking and what got you into that mode?
Again, I think it was, some of it had to do with last year. I feel like I just wanted to win so bad, and I felt this extra focus. At least for the 3 first rounds, I was just super focused. I knew what I had to do. I felt I had like a solid game plan, and just I think that inner confidence helped me to not make mistakes. I don't know, it just works that way. As soon as you have doubt in your mind, stuff start to happen on the course. But I was just really confident, fearless, and just focused on executing my game plan and getting birdies, and it all worked out.
Several changes to WR Jackson, and I think the scores for the FPO, the field are reflecting that. What did you think of the changes, and what would you like to see changed out there, if anything?
Yeah, I feel like the changes were good. I think they were more appropriate for FBO division. And I mean, other than that, I felt that the course was perfect to me. I mean, I would not change anything. It was just, I think it resembles what disc golf is all about, at least to me. Yeah.
All right, you talked about the month of May. Are you going to learn to play guitar in the month of May or silver?
Maybe not in May, but maybe during the off season. Yeah.
All right, and I remember last year, I think you had to buy a new suitcase for all the trophies. Any plan to take those back with you right now?
Yeah, I have 2 suitcases this year. I came prepared.
All right. When will we see you next?
I'm going to be back here in June playing Portland.
Awesome.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Kristin. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. We have Cat Mertsch sitting here, or Macho Man Randy Savage. Is that who you're trying to channel this week?
Oh, yeah, brother.
well, there's something to that. I think last week you came up to me at the Champions Cup, and you looked at me very serious in the eyes, and you told me, I'm going to get one of these one day. I'm going to grab myself a major championship. And there was some serious confidence when you spoke to me. Are you trying to channel that confidence this week? Is this the beginning of a new chapter?
I'm trying to channel that confidence every single week of my life until I die.
Well, you know what? We'll see. This is the week. And you're back in your home state of Arkansas. Everyone says that there's a home state advantage. Isaac just won the major in Georgia. You're back here in Arkansas. You got a podium finish there last year at the Jonesboro Open. Is that a real thing? Is home state advantage a real thing?
I disagree. I think if you think there's a home state advantage, you're probably going to have a mistake. You might overcompensate for something. I think you got to come out here and tear it up every weekend.
Well, what does it take to tear it up every weekend?
You got to believe in yourself, man.
Is that it?
Yeah, that really is. Like, in all seriousness, you really try to believe in yourself, because that's the first step of success, is knowing that you can do this.
Last week, podium finish at the major.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched you play for a lot of the week.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely made some mistakes out there.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a lot to clean up. What did you learn about yourself as a player last week?
That I need to quit making mistakes and clean it up.
What kind of mistakes?
Mental. I feel like a lot of my mistakes, you know, they look mechanical, but they are, in fact, all mental. It's just picking the right disc and being confident with the shot that you're throwing. I threw some shots that I wasn't confident with, and it, well, you see, I ended tied for third.
Third place, and a pretty big field of talented players, and, you know, you were still sizably behind Kristin. What is that? What are those strokes that you feel like you need to make up to be a major champion this year?
Do more work. Work harder.
Mm-hmm. That's it?
Yep, work harder.
What does work harder sound like?
Field
what does it
work,
look like?
shutting everybody out, going into a hermit mode, probably not speaking for months, and just staying in a field and close to a basket for hours each and every day. Yeah, man. Oh, yeah.
You know, part of what you're saying seems like there's some truth behind it. Part of me thinks you're not going to hermit yourself up in a field and grind all day, but we'll see. Are you enjoying your time in Arkansas? How far away from here do you live, and where did you grow up compared to here?
Oh, man. I didn't hear the second thing you said to me, but I live about an hour and 46 minutes away, small town of Rosebud. Love it. It's great. People are real cliquey there, but I love them either way. It's good.
Did you get to go home at all before coming here?
No, I'm going to go home Sunday night.
Talk about this course. Talk about how you're feeling on this course. When you got a podium finish last year, your game was different than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
So what has changed from last year's podium finish to this year?
I don't really know, man. I take it day by day. I'm probably a little bit less confident than I was last year, but I'm not going to think about that because that doesn't even matter. So I'm just going to come out here and try to shred to the best of my abilities. If it's great, it's good. If it's not, I learn. Mm-hmm. You know?
Definitely.
Good stuff. Course is looking good. I'm ready to go out there.
Just finished a major. Great finish. You come here. Are you practicing a lot this week, or are you taking it easy? What does it look like for you this week?
I've honestly been sleeping for multiple hours in the day. That major took a lot of energy out of me, so this course is pretty straightforward. The basket's in front of you for most of the part. You hit your lines, make your putts. You're going to do just fine. So resting up and knowing what discs you want to pick off the tee are very important out here.
Well, Macho Man, I have one last question for you. Do you know what discs you're throwing off the tee out here?
Depends on the wind.
Thank you. Here's Hayden Henry of the PDGA.
All right. Obviously, your best finish at a major. What are you going to take away from that?
I'm just going to take away the fact that I made it through, and I mentally pushed through my my negative thinking. I feel like I had some negative thinking out there during Champions Cup that could have been avoided, but it wasn't. So I'm happy that I came through and I pushed through on that aspect.
You know, you talked about the pressure was ramped up. Is that more exhausting than a week in, week out event?
I don't know. I think going week in, week out is pretty exhausting with itself. Pressure is just part of the game now.
All right, that was my next question. At this point in the year, are you burnt out? think the answer
Not
is
a
no.
chance.
Gotcha.
Not a chance. You eat well, you sleep good, take care of your mental health. You're not going to burn out too quick out here.
All right, tell us about Arkansas disc golf. What sets this state apart from everywhere else?
Dude, Arkansas's got a lot of great courses out here. There's some wooded courses. There's courses with woods and open. Man, I think what really sets it apart is the people, though. You're not going to come out to many states and find people as warm, as welcoming as the Arkansan crowd. We did used to have some courses up in Little Rock that was recently taken out by the tornadoes. It's pretty devastating because Burns Park was one of the older courses in here, and Reservoir was one of the many beloved. So rest in peace to those courses, and I know that the people will always come together and rebuild.
Definitely. Burns Park effort's already underway, and I think people were out the next day picking up trees. So
Absolutely.
Does that embody Arkansas?
Yes, it is. Cool. Very family-oriented community. We all love each other, and we all try to pick each other up when we need.
All right, number one goal for you out here this week in the home state, which clearly doesn't matter, but what do you want to accomplish out here at Jonesboro?
I'd really like to win or get an ace on camera. I'd be happy with both. I'd be happy with none. I'm just happy to be here. Either way, man. I'm amped up.
She's happy to be here, and she's definitely amped up. That's Kat Mertsch. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We are joined here by Silas Schultz, a player who is now a household name in many households across the country and probably around the world now after that performance last week. Silas, has the dust settled for you after this crazy weekend at WR Jackson?
I think so. I got a lot of amazing messages, and I think, we're on the tail end of that right now. And so I feel like that's kind of how you know, maybe, if the dust is settling. I think emotionally, the dust, probably has settled, and I've moved on to the next. But it was an incredible week for sure.
I want to talk more about the tournament. I mean, you've been on all sorts of podcasts already having to talk about this week, but it's something that I think you've earned the right to talk about. In that final round, the beginning stretch, you looked unstoppable on so many fronts. Have you ever felt like that on a disc golf course ever in your life?
I think I have. I think the golf I've played before, but never on that stage. So it did feel a little bit different. But I think during round 2, I had a similar feeling. The birdies weren't stacked together like they were round 4, but it was still like the same level of execution. And then I think, a lot of people say like, oh, he's playing lights out, he was unconscious, and you're really not unconscious. Like you do your absolute best to try to like stay very centered and like in the moment, and just focus on your next shot. But there's moments where you do kind of peek through, and I think, well, I haven't gotten a par in quite a while. You know what I mean? And then to even I think the most rewarding feeling is to push through that and continue to get a couple more. You know what I mean? So I think I probably have played golf like that, not on that stage, and that definitely felt unique to some of the other stuff that was similar.
I have watched you throw quite a bit over the years, and the thing that I recalled from you this week, or this last week at WR Jackson, was every time you threw one of those fairway drivers down the fairway, I believed you in regards to where the disc was going. I knew that you knew where the disc was going. Whereas in the past, your throw has always been powerful. It didn't quite look as intentional a few years back compared to now. Is that something that you've consciously worked on? Like, are you one of the form grinders out there always filming yourself and looking at that, or is it more of a natural progression?
I think it's probably more of a natural progression. I think in the past, I generated power going high to low with more of a swoopy form, which is a way of generating power. It's not the best way of generating power. I want to be more linear and across. And so I think during 2020, I took a break, came back, threw a lot of mids and putters, and pretty much leveled out my swing. And so since then, it's been sort of a natural progression. I can see different subtleties in my form that's changed since then, where I was holding it closer to my chest during my rotation, and then now I'm not doing that as much. But I think it's a natural progression. It's a little bit of intentionality, but I think I practice a lot in the field with more mid-ranges, putters, and fairways, just because that's what I enjoy throwing more. And I think that's what kind of cleans up the little things that are maybe not necessary or not beneficial. So I think, it's been a natural progression, but I also think on that course, you have to be locked in. And so it was kind of a one shot that I was throwing over and over again was the FD Heiser flip. And so I think once I get that shot dialed earlier in the week, it was easier to just like, okay, I've done this before, let's just do it again. And Heiser or Heiser, it was kind of one angle, one disc for most of the week. So
one last question about last week. Actually, it's just about you in general. What is your living situation, your life situation? Obviously, I don't think you're on tour full time, or are you?
So I would say like I'm on tour sometime, and so I played 2 tournaments earlier in Texas, went home. Now I'm playing, I just played last week, and I'm playing this one this week. I'll be home for all of May, and then I'll be hitting it pretty hard after that during June, July, August, and September. So I'll be coming home a little bit during that stretch, but it's going to be on the road for most of the year to finish it out.
Is this like a here on out kind of deal? Are you going to try to get deeper and deeper into touring full time, or are you always going to want to keep going back to Louisiana?
I love going home. I think I miss my family and my friends there, and so it's nice to kind of go back and reset, recharge a little bit. But I also think when you're on the road, it's hard to like tinker or tweak things in your game, and so I enjoy that time to go back and say like after Texas, I missed like I think maybe 4 or 5 like 40-footers into the cage during my final round of Austin, and I said, well, I'm going to work on a step putt. So then I went home for a week, worked on a step putt, tested it out in Tallahassee, and had good success with it. Still not feeling amazing with it, so I didn't pull it out last week on coverage. I wasn't trying to embarrass myself, but I think I just enjoy that part to where I can, if anything's, not feeling 100%, I can go home and recharge. So as far as here on out, we're kind of just going to have to see how it goes.
Thank you for that. One last question before I throw it to Hayden Henry. Let's jump forward to this week here at Jonesboro. You can throw the distance driver out here if you want to.
Yeah.
You claimed that you really didn't throw any distance driver last week at WR Jackson. How are the faster drivers feeling this week?
They feel good. I threw one distance driver backhand round 1, hole 18, errant drive, and I said never again, not for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
I can throw FD on that hole and we'll be just fine. Distance drivers feel good. I am I don't know if it's a finger injury, but I'm feeling some like soreness and swelling in my middle finger on my right hand, which I felt a little bit last week, feeling a little bit more this week. So I haven't practiced the course like a whole lot, just because I'm trying to rest it. So I'm going to get some ice on that tonight and just a little bit of ibuprofen. Hopefully I'll be good to go. Yeah. But I think overall drivers feel good, and I'm still not throwing I guess I'm throwing a lot of distance drivers, but the thing is, when I'm throwing those fairways, I'm throwing them about the same level of speed and power as what I'm going to be doing out here on hole 1 and some other distance driver shots. So it's nothing too foreign, and it all feels pretty solid.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Here's Hayden Henry.
Hey, Silas. Turned 20 last week? A couple weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago.
Did
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Did that at a major. Just how can you sum up the past few weeks?
I mean, it's been pretty great. I had a good performance a couple weeks ago, getting second to Mateo in Tallahassee. Played not great at an A-tier after that, and then was just really excited to get back on the road, back in the swing of things. And then after playing just one really, really nice, fun solo practice round in the morning at WR Jackson before the event, just felt like, something special could happen here. And then it did, and so it was just a bizarre week. Really fun and exciting week of disc golf, and I think overall it felt incredible, but more normal than I thought it was going to feel. So that's a little exciting, because I feel like it doesn't have to be a flash in the pan, and it could be something that I can continue to build on. So
definitely got your own style. Where does that come from? On the course, off the course? Just in general.
I don't know. That's just me being me. So I don't think. I don't know. That's just me being who I am. I got a lot of comments on this hat. A lot of people were just asking me, what is that hat? Where did you get it? It's it's a '92 Olympics hat, and I got it offline. And I really like it, and so I wear it on the course. And so, I think it's just me being who I am.
You got a strong Instagram game as well. All self-taught in that, or where does that come from, and that passion for creating content?
Yeah, I'm a pretty creative person just by nature, and so during 2020, Discmania asked us to make disc reviews, and so I went out and made a couple, and they got more creative, and I kind of just really enjoyed the whole editing process and being creative in that way, and so it's kind of grown into something that's actually become profitable and just exciting to do, and so it's something I really enjoy. I was actually editing a little video right before I came on here, and so I guess that will drop soon. I don't know. But it's something I just really enjoy, being creative in that way.
All right, battling a little injury, you said, but what are your expectations this week here in Jonesboro?
I don't know if I have any crazy expectations. I think always my hope and my goal for a tournament is just to play golf that I'm proud of. And so, last week, I played some golf that I was really proud of. And so even my 3-under round, I was pretty proud of, because I think that could have been an over par round, but I was able to put some birdies together in a stretch there. So I think expectations are just to hopefully putt well. I putted well last week, and look to continue that. And this is a course that plays well in my game, just like last week, just in a different way of just having distance and throwing far. So no real huge expectations. Just excited to play some more disc golf.
All right, that's Silas Schultz in his cool hat, and we'll be right back.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome back. Now we have Carolyn Henderson. Carolyn, welcome.
Hi.
Hello. We did not see you last week at the Champions Cup. How was that week for you? Did you come to Jonesboro early? How did you spend that time?
No, we spent the time at Champions Cup. I only got to play one round out there, but otherwise I was learning some of my discs, my Prodigy discs, so I can get my bag put together. And we got to watch the first round of the women's, just trying to figure out, what are they doing? And
So it was all learning for you.
Yeah, it was literally all learning.
What are you picking up on? And what do you feel like you can take away from the rest of your competitors?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were watching Kristin, everyone knows she's so consistent, right? And so we were trying to figure out what dish she was throwing on what holes. How can someone be piping a hole every single time? It's because she's trusting the discs, and so she throws these stable discs and let the discs do the work. And so we picked discs this week to do the same thing so we could have that kind of accuracy, because with flippy discs I noticed Haley King and Mertsch was on flippy discs, one didn't flip enough and the other one flipped too much, so we're trying to find ways to eliminate those errors, which I'm finding in my game a little bit too.
Fantastic. Well, that's obviously nice to have so many people to study from, but I mean, a 10-point ratings boost and joining the PDGA in 2021, you're already up to 931, and you've played pretty much all the big tournaments on the tour this year.
Yes.
What are the big learning points for you? What are the biggest takeaways so far this year on tour?
It's just all the courses are different, and so there's a learning curve for each course, and sometimes it's a little hard to keep up with it all because Texas has their type of golf, and that's the only golf I've ever known. And so when you go up to North Cove, you have to deal with the elevation and the disc change. You have to throw things that are flippier.
Yeah.
And so it's just that big learning curve. And I noticed that since Vegas, I was trying to learn new aspects of my game, and so I think I was going through an identity crisis. So I'm happy I still had those rating jumps, even with that playing identity crisis.
It's definitely different playing a tournament based on the name of the tournament rather than the name of the course.
Yes.
So you definitely have to accommodate your game to a lot of different places that maybe you're not expecting.
Yes.
Moving forward to the next question, you put out a video recently about forehand technique, and it was very well received, and people seem to really enjoy it. How does making content go for you? Do you enjoy it? Is that something that we're going to see more of in the future?
Oh, 100%. I'm working with GK Pro, and so they do a lot of the editing and the production and stuff like that. So I just kind of have to show up, which is the best part. I don't have to edit because that takes forever. But we will be seeing more. We'll do backhand here in a few weeks when I feel like I'm ready to discuss the backhand. But I feel like I know the forehand well enough that I can share that with people because, I'm new. So it's I remember what it was like to learn and feel things through and stuff like that. So I really do enjoy making the content, reaching out to the people.
When you're teaching and when you have a camera pointed at your face, are you scripting out your videos? Or are you showing up and just trying to go off the cuff?
Yeah, we did have 4 or 5 points that we wanted to discuss, but it was just me going through it. I've been thinking about that video for a really long time.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let's jump forward to this week. You are playing in this tournament.
Yes.
How do you like Jonesboro? How do you like the course here?
I love Jonesboro because the elevation is kind of back to the normal, and so the discs are more familiar to me, and this course plays super well for my power side arm and my backhand and stuff like that. I've played 5 practice rounds, and I've scored well in all of them, so I'm really excited to come out to the course and play this time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Itchy.
Yeah, and here's Hayden Henry.
Hello. You just completely burst on the scene, and new sponsorship, new everything. How has it been for you just to soak all this in?
It was a little overwhelming at the beginning because there's so many people wanting your attention and pulling you in different ways. So it was a little hard to concentrate on the things that I needed to practice on after tournaments because I was being pulled for media, I was being pulled to learn certain discs, and I had to go out to Georgia. And so it did kind of pull some of my time. I'm very grateful for it, but it's just been a little overwhelming. Not too much pressure though, just a little overwhelming.
You were on some podcast talking about the different sponsorship opportunities. What was it about Prodigy, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, so they were giving me everything that I had asked for and needed, and also they needed an FPO spotlight too, and so I think they were going to give me the best media opportunity than some of the other companies that were talking to me.
Does that add any pressure?
No,
being the
no,
FPO
it's something I think nowadays you need to have, especially being such a young player. I'm not established Paige or Catrina and them like that, so it's I have to, build my brand in a different way.
Yes. I mean, what is the goal when you step out on the pro tour at an event? What do you want to accomplish?
Mostly just play the golf that I had. Well, it's more of just trying to execute my game plans because, like, I'm still learning and I want to just learn from like what I've done. Like, I'm not gonna sit and say like I want to go win because like the odds of me winning would be nuts just because it's my like 6th, 7th tournament out here. I just want to stay in the top 20. That's my only goal.
You know, earlier when you were talking with Brian about being at Champions Cup, you kept mentioning we were taking notes. We were doing this. We were watching.
I'm so mad about that.
Can you explain that? Is that a caddy, a partner?
My caddy, my husband.
Okay.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time together, and he builds game plans with me and stuff like that.
Yeah, can you explain that process a little bit? How do y'all go about together figuring out what you need to do on the course?
He's been playing a little bit longer than me, so he also has a really good idea of how discs fly. Like, I'm still kind of learning that. He has a great like environmental awareness, and that's something I'm building. And so we walk through each hole and say, what do you think? And I'll tell him what I think, and he's like, well, I think this and I think that, and then we kind of just build through it and we choose a disc and execute. And we also sometimes like I'm nearsighted, and so it's hard for me to tell distances, and so he'll help me with distances.
Okay. What would you say is the overall, theme of your game plan for Jonesboro?
I'm going to stick to my default angles mostly, so I'm going to try to make sure I throw things that are flat to Annie for both forehand and backhand, and throw in some hyzers when I need to.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Caroline.
Yeah, for
we'll
sure.
be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We have Paul McBeth in the house right now. Paul, long drive out west from Georgia. How are you feeling right now? How was the drive?
It was about 8 hours. Wasn't too bad. It was actually nice not having the RV for this week because I'm just out here for this one. I'll be driving back home. So got my own personal vehicle, so it was smooth.
Reflect back on the years when you didn't have the luxury of being able to fly back home, get the RV. I recall you were touring in a Mustang with Double G and some other people. How were those years driving nonstop?
It was like yeah, there was like 8 different vehicles. We had a Honda Civic, the Mustang, 3000 GT, all sorts of small vehicles that we'd cram 2 or 3 people into. But it was pretty much duffel bags, and that was your clothes, and then you had your couple golf discs. It was very, it was very tight. But you know, you just go and share a hotel room or stay with locals and stuff like that, and there was a lot of couch and floors and things like that. So it was it's a little bit more comfortable now.
How long back was it that you started realizing like something has to change? I can't keep driving nonstop from event to event like this.
Well, it depends on how many people you have. I think if it's like 2 or 3 drivers, you know, you could drive to all the tournaments here that we have on tour now. But for me personally, 8 hours is kind of enough if you don't want to do it in a day. You know, you could go 12, 14, but it kind of gets a little taxing. More so physically, just sitting in a seat going like that. Traveling is tough. Like that's probably one of the hardest parts about the disc golf tour is the traveling aspect. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd want to travel any other way. It's hard to go suitcase and just carry your bag on flight to flight. That's a little bit more difficult in my opinion.
True. Let's look back at Champions Cup. Obviously, not the finish that you were hoping for. When you find yourself in a position where you start to feel like the win is out of contention for you, does it change the way you approach the rest of the tournament?
Well, it's interesting because out there, a 4 under is not that hard to shoot. You know, a 2 under is not that hard to shoot. Like it's possible. You know, and even though Isaac had that kind of lead on where I was, I knew I could shoot a 16, 18. I know all the holes are birdieable, so I didn't feel like I was ever really out of it at that point until, you know, I was 9 holes into it or something when he started out slow. So I was like, all right, there's still a chance, but I wasn't doing my part. So at that point, it's like I just want to throw good shots and finish strong and just get some momentum going into the next tournament and try to work on it because it is a competitive aspect, you know, when we're at the tournament. That doesn't really go away until, you know, the tournament's over. So still want to use it and learn from it.
I remember you came up to me. I was reporting for a different card, and you'd come up to me and you'd say, hey, did my disc hit a tree or did my disc hit a root late? I guess what that made me think about was, were you very satisfied with the way you were throwing the disc that week?
Yeah, I mean, I think day 1 and day 2, like day 1, I was really controlling my shots and putting them down the fairway, but I just catch a tree at the end, which that course does kind of have some in the middle. They're bigger trees, so you can't avoid them, but I was just, you'd go around a blind corner and your disc isn't where you expected it to be. So it's trying to figure out where did I make my mistake? Where was I a little off? Because courses like that, when you're off, when you're really off, you kind of find those gaps. You kind of miss the fairway and somehow end up in the middle, but when you're a little bit off, you're catching these trees and kicking into the rough and things like that. So, yeah, and then playing with Isaac too on top of it the first round, seeing what he was doing and just not even getting close to trees was. I just want to figure out where I could work on it the remaining few rounds that I had.
Definitely. Obviously, people talk very highly about W.R. Jackson. The original design was by John Houck. And now you're starting to design a lot more disc golf courses, and I think New London Tech is a pretty incredible wooded property that you designed. Compared to the John Houck style of wooded golf that we saw last week, what is your style? Like, how would you design a property like that?
I like to look at it like I want to do 6, 6, and 6, 6 open, 6 wooded, 6 moderately wooded and open, if possible. You know, you kind of are dealt with whatever the land gives you. Some are open properties like this one, and some are very wooded like W.R. Jackson. So you can kind of carve things when you got the wooded courses, but it is harder to make an open hole when you got nothing but woods. And then on top of that, if you want an open hole but you got woods, it's going to be a lot of money to clear that out. And it's not fun to cut down trees. You know,
Definitely.
It's not. You want to try to leave them as much as possible, but I try to work on making disc golf shots that are fair, but making them challenging. I don't want birdie to be easy. So I want to make you feel like you have to earn it on a par 4 or a par 5. You have to throw great shots. Good shots will get you a par. Great shots will get you a birdie. Not so good shots will be bogey or worse. So that's kind of what I look for when I'm designing holes and courses.
Well, let's jump forward to this course. Brad Pietz, course designer, tournament director, says that he designed this course to try to match the pinch points and the angles of a traditional golf course. Do you feel like a lot of this course does that?
My only thing on this course is I just wish there was more OB, because you can absolutely just throw it 300 feet the wrong way and still be in bounds. You know, you got the water hazards on some of them, but you could just go so far in the wrong direction and still be okay and save your par. but that kind of makes the excitement of at home when you're watching. The scores are going to be tight because of that. But you see someone, it's kind of frustrating when you see someone that's just way off the fairways all weekend, but they're still 2 strokes behind you because they're not getting punished for these kind of shots. So there is that, but no, I think they utilize it very well. Some of the par 3s are hard shots, even though it's straight, the way that the trees are and things like that, like it makes you have to throw a straight shot out the gap, but you need to move it left or right in order to get to some of these greens. And then you got hole 1 right behind me. Like it's a wide open field, but he puts it right there at the edge of a lot of players' distance. So you're trying. It looks open, but you actually have to really control your distance driver. It's almost like hitting a tunnel shot off the tee. So I think it's very well designed.
Thanks, Paul. And here's Hayden Henry.
Hey, Paul. Can you just explain to the people how hard and what it takes to shoot a 16 under or a 12 under at WR Jackson?
Well, it's funny because it doesn't feel hard when you're doing it. You're just kind of hitting your lines and just kind of very focused, and you're not thinking about a mistake. You're kind of just seeing your spot and hitting it, which is I think what we all go out there and do is we want to hit that spot, but just being able to do it that many holes consistently is just all the practice and hard work coming together in one moment. But it doesn't feel any different until you're done.
All right, what are your thoughts on the Champions Cup overall? As a major, and what can we do to continue to push those major events to the next level?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love the added pressure, the added media, everything's just bigger when you get to the majors. And you can kind of feel that atmosphere when you're there as a player. And spectators, it feels like there's a little bit more of a buzz going on. So I just think going bigger and better each year is the key, and just learning from what may have lacked the year before, and even what you did well, just continue to push it to the next level.
A couple changes out there, just thoughts on those, multifaceted reasons for making those changes, but
yeah.
What did you think of those?
Yeah, I mean, my only thing that I would love to see out there is something like the steady course has the water element. It's right there on the lake. WR is on the opposite side of the park, so you don't have any water elements, and when you go and play steady, you get to see the actual lake that the course and the property is on. But I would love to see that implemented in some way. And so it might have to be some kind of super course that gets put in. But, yeah, I think a lot of the fans and the people at home miss that, of how pretty that property really is.
Yeah, so a few people didn't realize that there were 3 courses out there, and that steady could be the most fun. You probably don't want to go play Jackson if you're just passing through.
Yeah,
but
yeah, steady is definitely the most fun of the 3 courses. But, yeah, it's not the challenge that WR is.
All right, go back to some course talk real quick. I had this written down. Just quick updates on Throwdown the Mountain course and Cactus Rock. Looks incredible on Instagram.
So Mike Barnett is going to be opening it up another 6 weeks. I think the tentative date was the 5th of May. I'm not sure. That's something might have to confirm with him if he's going to be up and ready by then. But I think he's going to have it open for 6 more weeks. And the goal is to have it Throwdown the Mountain course open to the public this fall. I don't have a date yet. We'll see. We'll keep that updated. Cactus Rock again. Dylan wants it open this fall, but we'll see when things start to get moving a little bit closer. We'll make those announcements. But yeah, it's some fun projects for sure.
Nice. All right, going into this week, how are you feeling overall? It's a grind already in the early part of the season. Are you ready for a break, or are you ready to keep going?
Yeah, it's actually funny. So this is my last tournament on U.S. soil until I'm in Europe. Pulled out of the OTB. It's my wife's birthday that weekend, and since I'm going to be in Europe for 8 weeks, I figured it'd probably be best if I spend that with her before heading out. And then I'm feeling good this week. It's completely different than last week, but now it's more controlled distance drivers versus controlled fairways. So it's kind of thankful that the weather's this way. I just came out and focused on putting versus ripping more shots on this course, because it is fun to play and just go out and just see how far you can throw on some of these holes. But looking forward to it. As long as I can get my putt, like I mentioned earlier, there's not much OB out here, so I should be getting a lot of birdie opportunities. Yeah, looking forward to making a statement here before heading to Europe.
Nice. All right, that's Paul McBeth. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, Catrina Allen. Podium finish last week at the major. Coming off that, is there any sort of like emotional decompression that needs to happen after such a long week at the major?
Well, I wanted it to or not, we're here in Jonesboro, so there's no time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was the drive out west?
Okay, so we left as soon as my card was submitted on PDGA Live, packed up the camper and truck, drove all the way here because for the past 5 years, the campsite has been first come, first serve. And we were the second people here, and we did not get a site. So we drove 8.5 hours on Sunday after the round, after a strenuous week, to find out that it didn't matter. So that was a little frustrating because we don't like to sit, I don't like to sit in the car for more than 5 hours is enough. So anyways, we're here.
Well, I do want to ask, because I obviously followed you playing golf a lot last week when I was reporting, and you and Austin are talking a lot about shots. Does he ever offer advice that you take, or does he know to kind of watch his words?
No, even if we're kind of, I don't know. We have such a great relationship that he can literally be like, we got to communicate better, or that, and it's it's not taking me out of my game. We're just working through it together. So it may not look like rainbows and butterflies to everybody else, but there's just no, what's the right word? We're just getting it all out there. Does that make sense? So if he's no, you need to throw a sidearm roller, it's okay. Even if I don't throw a sidearm roller, we're going to talk it out. We're going to figure it out as the week goes. So, yeah.
So you're okay with him giving advice without you asking?
Well, yeah, it's a nice perspective. And obviously for the past 5 years, we've played every practice round together, and he knows my game and he knows where my head's at. And it's I wish I could have him out there more.
Yeah. Well, obviously he's a great player too, but
Yeah.
I was impressed watching the communication, because some players don't talk to their caddies as much as you guys were talking.
Well, and I think what's different is, I feel bad because I have so many nice people offer to caddy for me a lot, but if I can't have that comfortability where we can kind of bicker a little bit, or kind of get I can be I feel off, this feels terrible, and he can be get over it, get yourself together, get back to whatever, or you should have took more time on that shot. Where if I don't know somebody, I don't want that coming, right?
For sure.
So we don't have the privileges yet of having PGA caddy, how PGA has caddies.
Well, there's a reason why those caddies make so much money.
Yes.
And I completely understand any touring player saying no to someone wanting to caddy for them, as much as it's a nice offer.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, because this was something that I watched very closely during the major. During your third round, I believe that was the one that went less than stellar for you. You mentioned that Austin can sometimes go out of his way to tell you, shape up.
Yeah.
What was going on during the stretch of holes when you were really looking like you were losing some focus?
So I don't like to, I made a post about it, and it's something I don't really focus on. I suffer from PTSD, from narcissistic abuse, and sometimes it's very heightened in disc golf, and I feel very claustrophobic, and so it can happen just in the morning or as I'm walking to hole one, and I am I feel very claustrophobic. And I've obviously talked to Austin about that because he's, more than my caddy. And he was just trying to get me to not focus. So, what happens is I can't focus, really. I feel the flight or fight, kind of everything. So if someone's, moving behind me on the tee pad or, opening a water bottle, it, infuriates me, and I'm, very uncomfortable. And just, the camera being close. On most days, I don't know the cameras are there. The cameras feel 100 cameras instead of one camera, and I feel and he was just telling me, I know what you're going through, but, you're going to regret it if you don't find a way to focus on your game right now. Don't do this to yourself. And, it's that, that inner battle. And, like I said, there couldn't be a better person to be by my side for that.
It takes courage to step up and say that while the player's in turn. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So then jumping towards this week, obviously last week for a lot of players was long and strenuous.
Yeah.
We're playing on much more open fairways this week. How do you feel during your practice rounds?
Good and bad. I was loving throwing my flippier fairways and putters and mids last weekend. We've talked over the past couple of weeks that I'm just doing everything I can to dial in my form and get my timing and everything going. So kind of sucks because I'm not going to throw those shots, right? Like they felt better than they felt in a long time. I think even during practice, Austin was like, I haven't seen you throw a shot like that in 3 years. And like, I was like really feeling it and gonna have to put those away and throw the big dog stable driver, especially I feel like no matter what, we're going to get wind out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I've since like 2012, I had to realize that wooded courses, open courses, windy, cold, hot, strenuous courses, short courses. Like I think it was Elaine King was like, you better figure out how to play on all of them. Yeah. So I'm ready for the challenge.
Last question for you: how are the big drivers feeling this week?
They felt fine. I took today off just mentally, and you know, I don't think I've taken a day off for over 2 weeks, so I thought my body might appreciate that and come out fresh tomorrow.
Fantastic. Well, here's Hayden Henry with just one last question.
Thank you.
Just following up on that, you know, it's been a grind of a season already, and we're just now getting into May. How do you feel right now? What is the mental, physical, overall?
I feel pretty good. I mean, yeah, like I think everyone's probably feeling like this was a quick turnaround. We've been spoiled to where we have, you know, especially in the Texas swing, like what, an hour drive or a 2-hour drive in between events. And I was kind of talking to people, do we normally have a week off after majors? Most of the time you kind of have the opportunity to take it off, but yeah, I feel fine.
Right. And jumping back to the major, they're already crunching the numbers on the changes to the FPO layout. What were your thoughts on them overall? And maybe when you saw the scores, or I don't know if you look at it that closely, but just your thoughts overall.
I feel so bad, but I did actually, you know, I feel like this question is being asked more and more, and not just from you guys, but from, you know, course director or course designers. The problem I see with the FPO is it's either like once you execute the drive, the upshot is almost brainless. You know, I think on some of those par fours, it's like, or I'm seeing that like people are messing up their drives and still able to get birdie because the holes are a bit too easy. And I think we saw that by the you know, I think I'm trying to think of, I had one bogey the first 2 rounds, and then maybe not until hole 7 that I had a rough hole. And so, yeah, that it's really tough because, you know, I would like to see where the par fours are either a harder upshot or a harder second shot. And, you know, I'd love to see more par fives where, or not always making a hole shorter, maybe making it into a par 5 where you have to throw 2 shots to throw that easy upshot if we're going to do stuff like that. So, yeah.
Incredible feedback. Thank you, Catrina.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We are now joined by a almost clean-shaven major champion, Isaac Robinson. Isaac, what a wild week that was at WR Jackson last week. I'm sure you've gotten a million messages and requests to talk and requests for interviews. Do you feel like the dust has settled for you yet after the victory?
I think it's getting there. Yeah, I think after this, I'll be done with interviews for a while.
Fantastic. Well, I had the chance to speak to your family last week, your brother, your dad, and a lot of the people that came out to watch you and support you. And most importantly, I talked to your brother, Ezra, who's also a fantastic player, I think, either right now or previously you're the 2 highest rated brothers in the world.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you're number 1 right now or not, but
I think it's close, yeah.
yeah. I asked Ezra, what did he think it was that has gotten you to these higher finishes in the past year or so? And he laughed at me and said he had no idea, because if he did, he'd be playing better himself. But what do you think it is that has started to separate you? I mean, me and you have played together, and I remember you being good, but I never considered you elite. But at this point, you have to.
Yeah, I think I play well with the pressure. When the pressure comes down to it, I tend to rise to the occasion, I think, and just having the fans and the crowd, the cameras, and just that extra pressure looking on from the outside really helps me perform at my best.
I also spoke to your father quite a bit, and he mentioned that he watched a golf documentary that terrified him. He watched part of a documentary where a player had a 7-stroke lead going into the final round, and then they lost the tournament, and that's what he went into the final round with. Did you have any idea that he was just absolutely terrified inside?
I know my dad pretty well, and I knew he was pretty nervous, but he did a great job of not showing it. He stayed, very calm, and that helped me stay calm as well.
When he was taking you out to play disc golf when you were young, did he ever push you into playing disc golf, or did you always want to go out there and play with him?
He definitely pushed me a little bit. At first, I really hated it. When I was, it wasn't until I was about 12 or 13 that I really started enjoying playing. So every time before then, I really hated going to the park and playing.
Now it's pretty much your career path. And have your parents always been okay with you following disc golf as a full-time deal, or have they always wanted you to go off to college or something else like that?
Yeah, they've been pretty open. They've let me kind of decide where I want to go with my life. And, I did end up going to college, and now I'm on tour after college. So, I kind of did a little bit of both. But, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's jump forward to this week. You have to come off the major championship at some point and focus in on yet another disc golf tournament. You drive 8 hours west, and you're here in Jonesboro where the gaps are a lot more open. Do you feel like it's easier to throw with open gaps? I mean, it seems like you're pretty good at throwing tight gaps.
Yeah, as long as I know where the landing zone is, I'm usually pretty good at finding the correct spot to land. Out in the open, it's a little harder to see where you want to be and kind of determine. Out here, there's a lot of twists and turns and hyzers and, all sorts of upshots. So finding that landing zone is a little more tricky out here, but I played the course and I think it fits my game very well. So I'm excited to play it.
You threw some phenomenal fairway drivers last week at the major, and I almost feel like I didn't see you throw a distance driver one time. Are you throwing distance driver out here in this course?
Yes, absolutely. I think you need to out at this course. I'm just relying on my stable stuff, throwing flex lines and hyzers, and I think that'll get me through this course pretty well. So
you throw your fairway drivers on hyzer flip pretty primarily. Now you're saying with the distance driver, you're flexing them out of the hand right away, so it's a different release point?
Yeah, a little bit more, of an anhyzer angle, just to get that distance to the holes.
Do you have to readjust after throwing an entire week of flippy fairways?
I think it'll be pretty easy. We go from course to course, at a very fast pace throughout the year, so you kind of get used to turning it around pretty quickly.
Well, great. Thank you for that, Isaac. And here's Hayden Henry of the PDGA.
Hey, Isaac.
Hello.
Someone said that W.R. Jackson may be getting too easy. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great course. I don't think there's much that needs to happen to make it easier or harder. I think it's pretty much perfect the way it is.
I asked Paul this question too with him shooting 16 last year. What does it take to shoot 12 down on a course like that?
Yeah, you have to take each hole basically one at a time. Each shot, you can't really get ahead of yourself. You can't think about what's coming next. If you just focus on hitting that one shot on the hole that you're on, usually you do pretty well out there.
I think that's what we responded to the guy on Twitter. Just come out and try it for yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, IDGC plug. A lot of people, don't realize that there's other courses out there. Tell us about Steady Ed and Warner and just the whole complex in general. Just someone who grew up there. Or close.
Jackson is by far the most championship level of those courses, and probably my favorite of the three. But Steady Ed is a close second. Going out there and just playing for fun. We play a lot of doubles matches out there, and it's just a blast. It's a little bit different terrain, a little bit easier. The water's in play. And Warner I try to avoid for the most part. It's not my favorite course, but it's still fun in its own sense.
Nice. All right. You spoke about playing well under the pressure. What is the pressure any different this week coming into Jonesboro?
No. I mean, it's the same. You know, you want to succeed and you want to play well, and you know, whether that's coming from the outside or myself, I think it's the same pressure.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, Isaac. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We're joined here by tournament director and course designer Brad Pietz. Brad, happy to have you here. Question for you. For those not familiar with this course, maybe some people new to disc golf, can you give us a brief history on the Disc Side of Heaven property and how this course kind of became what it is now?
Yeah, absolutely. The property that we're standing on right now, actually, not my family, but it's been in the same family for over 100 years. And so the land has not been touched by man hardly at all. So you get out there and you walk around and you see these giant 100-year-old oak trees, and there's no foundations, there's no concrete. I mean, it's just legit land, and it's been that way for a very long time. I approached them about 11 or 12 years ago, and I said, hey, I've got this crazy idea that I think might bring a few people to Jonesboro from time to time. Then we only had one course in the entire city, and it was at Craighead Forest Park, and it was one 18-hole course. And so the idea was to have a easier beginner course, which is the course that's behind you right now, and a course that would challenge the best players on earth, which obviously is the one behind me. And that was the idea, and that was the vision, and we actually opened 10 years ago in March. March 13th was our 10th anniversary.
Well, let's talk about this. 10 years ago, what was the Jonesboro disc golf landscape like?
It was kind of a neat mix. You had people who lived here who knew the sport, and they enjoyed it. And again, we only had the one 18-hole course out at Craighead. But then you had a lot of people like myself who moved to town from different places where disc golf was much bigger. And we all looked at Craighead and we were like, hey, we can do better. We can do better. We can do better. So we kept pushing. We got Craighead kind of cleaned up, added a new 9-hole course out at Craighead. Then it became another 9 on top of that. So now we've got 2 courses out there. At the same time, this opened up. So 10 years ago, it was pretty small, to be honest with you. But now we've got memberships here at This Side of Heaven. We've got a great, the Jonesboro Disc Golf Club is the guys who do all the work on the course behind me, and they do a fantastic job. So the scene has really grown in the last 10 years.
Obviously, because this tournament, players keep coming back to it year after year, and the course has changed a little bit over the years, but it's definitely changed the least out of most of the courses on the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
Right.
And I know that you mentioned earlier today to me that the inspiration for this design was trying to match the pinch points and angles of a traditional golf course.
Right.
Do you have a background in traditional golf?
Well, I played a lot. I played disc golf at a young age, then I played a lot of golf, then a disc golf, then a lot of golf. I enjoy both a lot, and I've played a lot of courses on both sides. And so, this isn't my first design, but obviously it's the biggest and the one that's most well known. But it was an idea to, I read everything I could, whether it be not just disc golf design, but ball golf design. And so once I was really putting the design together, I brought in a lot of different influences to help make the one behind us happen.
Well, with that said, I think a lot of players enjoy the fact that this is a course that doesn't have a lot of out of bounds. The fairways are very generous. But then I hear from Paul McBeth and Calvin Heimburg both that they kind of wish the OB is tighter at some point. Right. Do you have future aspirations to continue pushing this course to more and more challenging heights?
I don't know if we'll ever get to the point of having a lot of artificial OB. To me, the imagination is part of the game. To be able to if you miss your line and you are way off, how do you scramble from that? You may be 500 feet away, but you still have to make that scramble shot. Whereas if we put an OB line and now you're back in the fairway, just added a stroke. There's not much imagination to it, right? That's my opinion. Some people think differently, but that's the way I look at it is, you go play regular ball golf, if you will. There's not a whole lot of out of bounds there where you have to bring your ball back. If you spray it over into somebody else's fairway, well, you go play it from that fairway, right? So there is going to be some design. There's going to be a major change next year, but it's as far as the course itself, no, there won't be a whole lot more white paint out there.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Brad. And here's Hayden Henry from the PDGA.
Hey, Brad. Congrats on 10 years out here.
Yeah, thank you.
An incredible feat, and thanks for all you've done for the sport. Disc golf courses are obviously popping up left and right. What would be your advice to a designer out there that's putting in a course, maybe not on a property like this, but just on your regular everyday park for beginners?
Everyday park for beginners, the first thing is always safety. Safety. It's somebody, I forget who said this, I think it might have been John Houck who said this, is whenever you're looking at a hole, any hole, and you're putting it on a course, think of the worst possible shot that somebody can throw, and then think of one worse. And it's going to happen. And so you can't, whenever you're going to put something together for people that are just learning to play, you have to think of, make sure that it's not going into a playground, or make sure it's not going into a busy street. Always safety first when you're putting together a beginner course.
All right, and when you're putting together a course for Kristin Tattar or Paul McBeth or Calvin Heimburg,
right,
what advice for them?
Oh, that's a little bit different. That's where you do start pushing the angles, and there's more to challenge than just length. You can pinch off a shot and make them not throw full strength, where they still have to throw it out there, not as far as they can, but a long distance, precise shot, and you use the angles and that type of thing to do that.
Are you looking at the numbers and how people are scoring year in and year out and adjusting accordingly?
I look at every hole year in and year out. Yep, absolutely. And again, this course really has not changed. We changed hole number 4 and hole number 7 last year. Next year, we're actually going to flip the course, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Where we're standing right now will not be Tournament Central next year. Tournament Central will be way out on Spectator Hill. So that means the numbers of the holes are going to flip, and we'll have a new starting hole and a new ending hole. But most of the holes, I'd say 16 out of the 18, aren't going to change at all. We might have to tweak a couple, but it won't be major changes.
What was the thought process behind that?
Twofold. We are actually now on a city park. Again, going back to the family who's owned this for over 100 years, the 26 acres that we're standing on right now was donated to the city. So it's now Beatrice Park, which is named after their grandmother, who was the original owner of this land. So the city park is going to do some changes here, but we don't have a lot of room here for Tournament Central, and the Pro Tour's gotten so big with so much stuff, we need more room. So out on the hilltop, we've got so much more room that we'll be able to expand Tournament Central, more vendors, more people. It'll be pretty neat once it all comes together next year.
Solid relationship with the city so far in this transition?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, Brad, thank you for everything you've done. Looking forward to a great weekend here in Jonesboro, and we'll be right back.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome back, and last but not least, the venue development manager of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Evan Shper. Evan, what exactly are the full roles of the venue development manager?
Well, Brian, it's wearing different hats on different days. It really depends on the event that we're going to. Some of our events that we have more of a process on setting up the course, like Portland Open, I'll be there more in advance working on tee pads and really like building the course from the ground up. But a lot of times on event weeks, I'm just here in an operational capacity as a manager helping the event go smoothly.
What are some of the biggest obstacles that we face when it comes to venue development and venue management now that disc golf has blown up to where it is?
Oh man, I think space is probably the biggest one that we face. You know, traditionally disc golf courses a lot of times have been played in the woods and on properties that don't have a lot of space for a lot of spectators and a lot of infrastructure. And as the tour grows, as the sport grows, I feel like that is really what we're looking for, is a lot of space to work with and be able to do all sorts of fun stuff with.
Obviously, we play a lot of golf courses on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and I think at least what a lot of people see it as is just a placeholder for infrastructure. We can make a course as long as we have the facilities to handle thousands of people. That's good for now. Is that the case, or are there a lot of golf courses that you believe will be long-standing mainstays on the Disc Golf Pro Tour?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I know there's a lot of opinions about there on golf courses versus not golf courses. The way I see it is a disc golf course is a disc golf course, and we're trying to create disc golf courses on whatever property we go to. And whether or not that's a ball golf course or not, we're going to try and utilize that space that people love to see disc golf played in as much as possible. And ultimately, it just provides us with a lot more space, as we were talking about, for spectators and other types of infrastructure, Tournament Central, vendors, etc. for that. But I think we can create disc golf courses on golf courses that don't necessarily show you that you're on a golf course.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, I do see, like, obviously, Paul McBeth, Dylan Cease, they're buying up these private pieces of property. They're trying to develop disc golf courses that are disc golf specific and not sharing any land with a golf course. Do you feel like the future has more space for projects like that? Do you feel like ideally the dream is to have a full tour of courses like that?
I can't say specifically to certain properties, but yes, I mean, as the sport grows, more people are investing in these private properties specifically for disc golf, and that's amazing to see. We love to see that. We love to see the dedication and the investment that so many people are making into the professional side of the sport. So yeah, I can't wait to see where that property grows that Paul and Dylan just bought. I can't wait to see the future of other properties that are under similar ownerships.
Well, you're obviously in on a lot of the meetings talking about how to build these properties out and scale them to accommodate the growth of spectators. And again, spectator, like ticket sales, bigger than ever yet again. What are the talks like when we're planning around a wooded property? I know W.R. Jackson was a PDGA major, but when you're building an event for spectators on a course like that, or a course like Nevin or something like that, what are the talks like during those meetings?
Yeah, it's a lot of spectator management and how we're going to allow people to have the best experience that they can in the woods. People love to see disc golf in the woods. I don't think we're going to move away from that anytime soon. There's going to be wooded holes to some degree on the tour for hopefully forever. But that being said, we do work with a lot of challenges in the woods and having room for the infrastructure that we need. So as time goes on, I think courses just continue to develop, clearing out more areas where spectators can view from the sides of these wooded fairways is an option, clearing out more space behind tees, behind greens, and creating these designated spectator areas within these wooded courses is really going to be the answer to allowing these courses to grow and flourish within the tour.
What is your favorite part about this job? What do you enjoy about being the venue development manager?
Oh, geez. What is my favorite part about this job? I think just knowing that, you know, we're all working to try and be a part of something and growing the sport and elevating it in whatever capacity we can. So for me, we're trying to make these courses a little better. We're trying to work on, you know, improving the tee pads a little bit. We're trying to work on moisture mitigation strategies to, you know, prevent water from building up, to prevent mud from building up. So I think to me it's just satisfying to know that these things are taken care of and accomplished. And, you know, maybe people don't see it on the outside, but it goes a long ways to knowing that things are just buttoned up on the course.
Well, thank you so much, Evan. We appreciate that. We'll see you out there this week.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brian.